Today I am finally working on installing some drainage around my off-grid cabin here. This cabin does not have any gutters or any type of way to capture the rainwater that comes off of the roofs and then divert it elsewhere. It all just goes directly onto the ground. This cabin is here in the state of Washington in the Pacific Northwest, and it rains a whole lot here for most of the year. So when you've got water coming down off of the roof, splashing off the ground and soaking this for long periods of time, that can cause some major damage, warping and mold. It's just not good. So that's why I'm going to invest some money and some energy into try and find a solution to that problem. And then it's just nice to be able to walk through the entryways and not have excess water splashing on the top of your head, or like you have to go through a waterfall basically of all the water that's coming off of the roof. So what I'm doing today is installing these French drains and piping them all together to a low point over there, and the water will just run on top of the ground. Now this is my first step in fixing the drainage situation. The next step will be installing gutters, which have been underneath the back deck since I bought this place. There's a couple 16-foot sections which will work perfect for the front entrance above the deck right here, and then the door that goes inside the garage. But I'm gonna work on installing those later. For right now, I'm gonna install these French drains first. So I picked up almost all of my supplies at my local Home Depot. These are 10-foot sections of French drain. They're NDS brand, and I'm going to connect them together with 3-inch Schedule 40 PVC pipe and fittings. That there looks like it's gonna be my nice finished grade. Now that I've got that figured out, I'm gonna dig down and put that drain in the ground. I used a straight edge and a level to see right where the rain, when it drips off of the roof and hits the ground, that's where I want the drains to go. So I lined it up, put some stakes in the ground to mark, and then made a couple marks in the dirt with my pickaxe, and then moved the drains off to the side and dug out the dirt where the drains were going to be placed in the ground to the proper depth. Now the depth took a lot of figuring, because I not only have to take into account, okay, I want the grade to be where it was before, but also I have to think about where the pipes are going to connect, and there's other hosts and piers all around this area, and then there's a couple, like my septic pipe comes out towards the driveway, and so I had to think about that as well. I didn't want to have to dig under that, and I needed to make sure I was over top of it. There's a lot to consider, but it all ended up working out, thankfully. So once this drain was in the ground, I backfilled a little bit, compacted it with my feet to make sure it was nice and smooth grade underneath this, and I used the level to make sure there was drop, so when the water falls into the drain, it's going to drain downhill. It's very important when you're doing any type of drainage. You gotta make sure the water is going to fall down and you don't have any high spots for the water to puddle, because then it's not going to drain very well. And then these rocks right here I used as kind of an aesthetic piece. I've moved these rocks multiple times. When I first bought the cabin, they were right here by the deck as like just a pile of rocks. And then I moved them over to another area over there. And then when I thought I was gonna build my woodshed, I was gonna use those for like fill under the woodshed. So I moved them from over there to between those trees over there. And now I'm like, okay, I'm not really gonna utilize those. So I wanted to use them here. So these rocks I've moved so many times, but I think this is going to be their final resting place, is right here by this French drain against the garage.
We did. It was actually kind of clever before the CGI gopher showed up. But seeing the little hill was kind of fun.
Sequence from the original movies.
Yeah.
No. And it was like, okay, we all want to see what Indiana Jones did here. Oh god, so this is what, 44? Yeah, I'm trying to think like
The Fugitive.
So 39 to 44 is 5 years, so 89, 90.
So once I got this drain all in place, I started to connect my pipes and lay them out and measure and cut them to length and work around the obstacles, like I said, the post and piers for these decks.
Music isn't selling the scene like it should be.
The theme would creep up every now and then, but it's kind of inappropriate time.
Yeah, like it shows up first when he's running across the top of the train. It feels like, I don't know, that was too early for it or something.
Yeah, like interesting stuff.
I mean, he's 97.
Yeah, I mean, that's possible, because there's one part where I was like, 1939, kind of redo the war.
Even World War II again. Nazis shooting down at Romans. Nazis versus Roman soldiers is where this movie ends up.
Full of, real world action sequences, car chases. Like the Grimm's character.
Well, the Grimm's came back. They brought the Grimm's.
And then once I finished this one, this is just a 10-foot section, I moved over to that wall over there, and that is a 20-foot section. So it's two 10-footers put together, and I did the same thing. I measured off of the roof to lay it out, and then I dug the dirt down. That was a little bit more tedious because there was a lot of roots and stuff in that dirt, but eventually I got it dug to the depth that I wanted, and I just did the same thing, kind of backfilled with my feet, made sure everything was nice and flat, and then I joined the pieces together and laid out my pipe underneath the cabin and connected this drain to that drain over there underneath the deck over there.
The ride, I didn't like his clutch lever placement at all. Performance bike I think I've ever ridden. It was amazing.
I want to know, Chris, within Jet's bike, and you could cut down early if you wanted to out of a rut engine, and it kind of deflects when you're on the lean angle of the tire. For how fast Jet is, this fork is actually comfortable and soft, and lightweight, and really a really powerful bike, and a little bit better for him. And I mean, hopefully we get some more close racing at the next 3 races. I was kind of nervous. I didn't want to screw it. I went up 3. That was like an official test day, or?
So this is what I was able to get done in about 8 hours of work here today. This drain and pipe and the placement of those rocks, this drain and the pipe going underneath there. And then I'll walk over here and show you this pipe right here. That pipe comes from the garage wall, goes underneath that small deck, and then connects to the other one that goes to that 20-foot section of French drain in front of the entry room of the cabin. And then once I put my gutter up on this part of the roof, the downspout is going to come down that trim right there and connect to this pipe here and then drain out to this area over here. So I was short a couple of fittings here, so I'm going to have to get those to connect that downspout. And then over here on this front room, I need a special fitting right here because I'm coming in at a really difficult angle, and that's not quite a 45. I think this might be a 22.5, but I'm gonna use one of those rubber fittings to make this connection right there. But to finish off this day of work, I'm gonna go ahead and backfill these French drains and this little section of pipe and get rid of all this dirt out of here, this excess dirt and all these fir needles, toss them in the woods and kind of clean everything up here. Check it out, everybody. I got a recliner chair in my cabin now. This is the best kind of recliner chair you can get because it's the free kind of recliner chair, thanks to my grandma. So after I finished off that day's worth of work doing the install of the French drains, it was time to work on the gutters. And the first step in the gutter process was cleaning them off. And I just started with rinsing them off with water and using a soap and a rag to get the initial layer of dirt and whatever else was on there off of the gutters to clean them. And then I used the advice of my mom and I took a Scotch-Brite pad and some 409 and scrubbed it pretty good to get it really clean. And once those gutters were clean, then it was ready for paint. All right, so I got those gutters cleaned off. They're ready for paint once they dry, and those downspouts. So I took care of the sweating several times when I was installing those French drains, and now I got my blood from messing with these sharp metal gutters. So I got blood, sweat, now I just need to cry at some point in this project, and I'll hit the trifecta. Blood, sweat, and tears, for those of you that didn't catch that.
Or as you try to placate or figure out where they are rather than doing that, that kind of teaching is the teaching I sit under, whether it's it just makes it hard for me, and I got a chance to screw it up.
Alright, so this is bare direct to metal paint. We'll see if it works as advertised. So these gutters have a very thin layer of paint already on them. Looks like there's the metal there, and then there's a primer, and then there's paint on top of it, but I cleaned it off pretty well with that Scotch-Brite pad. So I think this white paint should go on there and stay on there well. We'll see. So I ended up putting 3 layers of paint on. I did 1 layer to start, waited for that to dry, and then I did the second layer pretty much in the dark. As the sun was going down, I was like, you know what? I want to do 1 more layer before dark so that when I wake up in the morning, I can see if it needs a 3rd coat. It was true. When I woke up in the morning, after 2 layers had been applied, I looked at the gutters and I was like, yep, it needs a 3rd layer. So I put on the 3rd layer in the morning, and while I was waiting for the 3rd layer of paint to dry on the gutters, I cleaned off the roof, which I actually should have done to start before I even did the whole French drain thing, but it's all right. Well, the reason I didn't clean the roof off first thing was because when I started, the day I started, it had rained the night before and the roof was slippery. So that's why I didn't sweep off the roof to start. But I swept off all of the roofs on the cabin and the garage. That way I could start with a blank slate so that when I put on my gutters, the roof would be clean. So I got the roof cleaned off, I got the gutters dried, and once those were dry, it was time to hang the gutters. So what I did was found my center point, which was 8 feet, and then I just took my ladder, placed it in the center of where the gutter was going to be, started above the deck, the entry deck, and just climbed up the ladder. And there was flashing on the roof, and I needed to tuck the gutter behind that flashing and then against the fascia. I also needed to put the gutters at an angle so that there's drop from one end to another, so when the water fills up in the gutters, it will drain down. So it was a little bit tricky to do all that by myself, but I got it. I kind of planned it all in my mind before I got up on the ladder and did a lot of measuring and made a couple marks on the gutter itself, on the fascia. So I was like, okay, when I carry it up there, I need to match these 2 marks that I made and then slide it back and forth and just look down here at this end, look down there at that end, and tilt it just enough. So I got that all figured out so that there was drop, and screwed the gutters into the fascia board, and it all worked out. It went pretty smooth, actually. It wasn't too difficult. Not as difficult as I thought it was going to be. The first one went well, and then I went over to the garage roof and hung up that one against the garage, following the same process. All right, let's talk gutters for a sec. Now, I'm not a gutter expert. This is my first time installing gutters in my life, but I'm fully aware that when it snows here, and it does in the wintertime, the snow is going to accumulate on the roof and then slide down, and because of the placement of these gutters, the snow can pile up on the gutters and potentially rip them off. Now, I'm using screws, which definitely helps with the structure and the strength of this gutter against the house, but regardless of how strong those screws are, that's going to happen. The snow is going to slide, it's going to catch this, and it's going to weigh down the gutters. So what I would like to do is put up some snow guards here. It's like a block so that the snow cannot slide, and it kind of piles up right here, and then it melts and the water runs into the gutter, and then the gutter does its normal job to direct the water down and out to the pipes on the ground. So I think that's my plan, is to put some snow guards. This is a 16-foot section of gutter, so I'm going to put 16 feet of snow guards on the roof here. That's what I'm thinking, because I put a level on here, and I was thinking, well, if I drop the gutter down far enough, then the snow will slide off and miss the gutter, but the fascia is not big enough for that to happen. I kept dropping the gutter further and further down, and in order for the snow to bypass the gutter and slide past it, I couldn't fasten the gutter to anything. So it's gonna be here. And also, I am fully aware that these are also going to accumulate and slide down and fill the gutter full of those needles. That's why most people up here don't have gutters, because they don't want to clean their gutters all the time. But I am fine with cleaning gutters. It's not that difficult. And when I'm only gonna have these 2 sections of gutters, and I've got this ladder, it's gonna take me like 10 minutes to clean gutters. So it's not that big of a deal. Once the gutters were up, it was time to figure out how to lay out the downspout so that the water can come out of the gutters through the downspout and then connect to the pipes that I put in the ground, or on the ground. And that took some just back and forth, trial and error, put the downspout up there, measure, cut with my grinding wheel thing, put them back up there, measure, cut again, make sure things will get lined up against the wall I guess the trim 45 away from the wall, 45 back to the gutter. Just kind of taking my time, tedious, time consuming, perfectionist work going on there.
Ew.
And then once all that was laid out, I made a materials list because I needed to go back to town and also make a dump run to dump my garbage because I haven't done that in a while. So I went to the dump, dumped a bunch of my garbage, and then got fittings that I was missing. And now I am here the next morning with the fittings that I need. And so I'm gonna go out there and connect all the things that need to be connected, do some backfilling, and finish this up. So let's go. Alright, so lucky me. I thought I was gonna have to use this rubber fitting to make this weird angle work, and in a crisis I would use that, but this is a 22.5 degree angled piece, and that looks like it's gonna work perfectly right there. So I'll use that one. I gotta crawl back under there, and it's gonna be tricky. These are always tough when you're trying to make these type of connections where, I don't know, it's just difficult. I gotta connect this over here, then this over here, then this over here, and once you put the glue in and you push it together, there's no going back. You got like 5 seconds before that stuff gets solid, and it's but I can do it. I guess I already glued all this in here. I forgot, so I only need to glue out there. So I crawled around there for no reason. Good trick to use is if you want to make sure your fittings are at the same plane, I guess you could say. Your Schedule 40 PVC usually has markings like this on it, and your fittings have markings too. So this mark is the top of this 45 degree fitting, and this also has a mark on it. So if I put this right in line with that text, letters, numbers there, and I got that one glued on first. I'll glue this one on next. If I put it right in line with the text there and right in line with the text there, then I'm working on the same plane. So if I put this flat on the ground, these two are going to be going along the same plane. I don't know how else to say it other than that. Because if I were to turn this that way, then this one would be coming in over here, and then this one would be coming up. So anyways, don't know if that made any sense. Now for the tricky part. Okay, that went in there pretty well. There's lots of glue here. No regrets. Let's go. Oh shit. Perfect. Yes, that worked. Woo. Nerve-wracking. That worked great. Beautiful. Love it. Love it. Now to finish off this gutter downspout over here, I'm going to come out of this T right here, and I've got 45 here and another 45, which makes a 90 degree turn total, and I'll angle this just right. I've got one of these fittings that fits this square downspout, and I just need a piece of pipe that is 22 3/4 to be cut, glued in there, and then I'll be connected. Ha! It worked. It's a good method. Put everything together without gluing it, then make marks, then apply your glue and make the connections and line up your marks. Oh, nope. Ha! There we go. And we have success. Yes, I did it. We are connected. Okay, now this is super annoying. On my journey to town yesterday to get those fittings at 22.5, the 45, I needed to find one of these to come out of the gutters and go into the downspout. Obviously, I don't want to reuse this one. I could not find, I went to 3 different stores, could not find one of these. So the only thing I could find was this section. And so I'm just gonna like hack away at this and utilize just this part right here. So it's really annoying that I couldn't just find this, but I'm gonna make these two work in my 2 gutters, and then the gutters will be done. Boom. Check it out. Yeah, buddy. Slide down in there now. And I'll just apply some glue, some screws. Now this little thing will allow the water from this gutter to drain into this gutter, down the downspout, into the pipes, and out there. Now let's just get super sloppy with it and make sure there ain't gonna be no leaks. Mix it all around here. Alright, well that might not be the way the professionals do it, but that's the way that I do it. Anyways, time to do that over there now.
Something only YouTube can fix. And so, anyways, but probably right, but there's this chance that something else might work. And anyway, so it's basically like, hey, like basically he doesn't have time to talk to me.
Step in this project was to test out whether or not these gutters worked or had any leaks, as well as the French drains. So what I did was hook up my hose and a nozzle and turned on the water and sprayed the French drains, and then I sprayed the roof and just watched the water drain everywhere, in the gutters, in the French drains, through that 3-inch white PVC pipe, and just checked for leaks, and it all worked as planned. It's flowing. Now let's see how my aim was coming off the roof. It looks about right. Nice. Simulated rainfall. Alright, so my aim was pretty good. I think I'm definitely going to want to add some boulders, kind of like I did over there. Maybe even on both sides, some boulders. So I got kind of a layer of standing water here on the garage side. It's not too bad though. All in all, the water drains, it runs downhill and goes out the end of that pipe. So that's all I wanted it to do. Redirect all that water that was coming off the roof before and splashing off of the stairs going into the cabin. Redirect all that so it no longer soaks the siding of the cabin. Now here's the thing, those French drains, the water still comes down and splashes off of the plastic grate that's on that, so that's still a problem. I have some, well, definitely I want to finish the skirting on the front of the cabin for sure. That's going to help a lot. And then I think if I add some boulders as like a blockade for the water to splash off of the rocks and boulders, that will help as well. But overall, I'm super happy with how this turned out. It's going to be a lot better than it was before, that's for sure. And what I plan to do is extend my deck so that it covers that PVC pipe. And I wanted to extend that deck for a while anyways, so that there's a gradual step down to where the crawl access is. That's going to be a lot nicer once I build that deck and finish that out. Now, the reason why I'm in the truck right now is because I recorded all that, me spraying the roof and kind of testing everything out really quick, because I got a phone call from my grandma, whose neighbor, they own a bunch of acreage out in the woods. He built a bridge going across this river or creek that runs through his property, and apparently he wants to build a cabin in the woods. And who knows, I might be the guy for the job. We'll see. I got to talk to this guy. I'm kind of excited about the prospect of this, but you never know what can happen in life. It might just be an idea that might not come together, or that might be the next thing I'm doing, is building a cabin for somebody, which would be awesome. And for those diehards of this channel that are watching to this point in the video. You watched all the way to the end. In a previous video, I talked about building a woodshed, which I would still like to do someday, but I drew it up. I drew up some plans for my ideal woodshed, and it's pretty nice, like matching the garage with the siding and the shingles and the gable and all that. Like, that's the shed that I want, but I didn't even price it out. I just made the materials list. Like, I need X number of 2x6s, and I need X number of sheets of OSB, and then I need the hardy plank, and then I need the caulking, and then I need the pier blocks, and then I need this and that, and just the materials list. I knew that I don't even want to know how much this shed is going to cost to build right now, because building materials are crazy. So right now, I am not going to invest the money to build a woodshed like that. Maybe I'll build something really, really simple, but we'll see. So just like I'm saying, me building this cabin for this guy, it's an idea that could happen, much like the idea to build my woodshed. Like a week ago, I was all in. Like, that's what I'm going to do next, is I'm going to spend money on the shed. And then I drew the plans and was like, yeah, that's not gonna happen right now. No way that's gonna happen. I'm not gonna I can spend my money a lot different ways than that. So who knows, I might draw up plans for this guy and you know, come up with everything, and then he's like, you know what, change my mind. So that could happen. So we'll see what happens. I appreciate you all watching. Thanks a lot, and I will see you on the next one.